We are really delighted to have one of our really great alumnus from the Zarb School, Matthew McCarthy. We just found out that you graduated in 2001. Is that correct?
2001. Yeah, no, hold on a second. What was it? God, I can't remember now. I gotta do the math, actually.
I was told it was 2001. So.
No, it's a little bit before that, I think. It's been 21 years, yeah.
21 years, okay.
Yeah, 99.
Great. All right. So I just want to introduce Mr. McCarthy here, give a little bit of background about himself, where he has been. So Matthew right now is Vice President of Unilever's Foods category in North America, member of the Unilever US Country Board. He has been responsible for Unilever's US deodorants portfolio, men's grooming strategy, cross-brand media and sports partnerships. I think you had a role at AXC brand also in North America prior to that. Before his time in personal care, Matthew spent his first 13 years at Unilever in foods. So you can ask him a lot of questions about foods in general tonight, I guess, right? A range of brands and big businesses across dressings, margarine spreads, savory sauces, olive oil, DST baking. He has held roles on both global and local brands, field sales management, and led marketing for the recent acquisitions of the Dollar Shave Club and Sir Kensington's Condiments. So really a lot of number of years, as you can see, but across many different roles in various divisions within the organization. Currently, Matthew is a member of Unilever's Global Foods Leadership Team. He founded the Men's Working Group for Gender Equality actually, is executive sponsor of Unilever's Marketing Foundations Training, and he also sits on the US Marketing Talent Resource Committee. Matthew's work has received a number of industry recognitions, including the Cannes Gold Medal Alliance. I don't even know what some of these mean, but it's a long list. One Show Gold Pencil, IAB Mix, Adweek's Brand Genius Award. So you can kind of get the trend here. Matthew's BA is in Politics and French from UMass Amherst, and as we mentioned, his MBA is in Marketing from the Zarb School of Business. He currently lives in Southeast New York with his wife Lisa. So I welcome Matthew and really gracious that you can spend your time with us tonight and share your thoughts with our students. Thank you. Welcome.
How's everybody doing? Great. Doing all right? All right, so I have to talk into this, right? Because we're live streaming, and this is plugged in. All right, so I'm going to talk into the sun. Yeah, it's on. Sorry we're running a few minutes late. I came out from our North American headquarters in Englewood Cliffs. It was like pressures getting out there, so I know how terrible it is to sit waiting in the audience, so apologies to make you wait. What I thought I'd do is talk a little bit about how I got where I am, what it is that I do, and why it is that I think that marketing is in a lot of ways fundamentally broken in the way that we're doing it in the industry we have been. Does that sound cool? Yep. Yeah. Okay, and if you've got questions, if it's me talking the whole time and no one asks any questions, I'm going to feel really self-conscious. So I'm hoping somebody asks some questions. If you really disagree with what I'm saying and you don't say it, that's your missed opportunity. I'd rather have people disagree with me and say, I've got a different point of view than me sit here and blab on for the next whatever it's going to be. Does that sound cool? Okay, good. So I actually been at Unilever for about a little over 20 years. Right after I got out of Hofstra, the Zarb School, I went to work for a company called Best Foods Baking Company. So if anybody knows the Entenmann's brand or Thomas's English Muffin and stuff like that, I went to work with them. Actually, it was a really kind of stroke of luck, to be honest with you. I was working on campus here, and one of the marketing directors phoned up the business school and says, hey, do you know anybody? And it happened to be in the right place at the right time. So don't underestimate the importance of kind of creating your own luck. And then I went over to work there as an intern when they hired me. Worked in the baking business for a couple of years, selling bread, basically running the marketing of a $1.6 billion baking company. Really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. The cake is fun, right? I have to be honest with you. Cake is fun stuff. I did that for a bit, and then the company got bought by Unilever, right? And the interesting thing is, about 2.5 years into the business, the company got bought by Unilever. And I had tried as an undergraduate to get into Unilever and failed. So I knew I wanted to go into marketing somehow. I didn't know what I wanted to do because I was very much a liberal arts undergraduate. And kind of was bopping around trying to figure out how to get into it. I'm like, oh, you need an MBA, you have to go to an Ivy League school, blah, 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 all that stuff. So I really struggled to find my way into brand management as an undergraduate. So it was really funny that Unilever was one of the companies that I tried to get into. It didn't work out, and then my company got bought by Unilever. And so I worked in that side of the business for a bit and moved over to, so DSD is direct store delivery. You ever go to a supermarket, you see people in there literally delivering the product, like potato chips or milk or bread. That's what DSD is, and basically that as a business system is where the manufacturer brings the stuff to the store, the place where it's sold, purchased by consumers. Then I moved on to the warehouse side of the business, so worked with a ton of brands for the next about 10 years at Unilever. A lot of big brands that we've since sold. So a big brand like Ragu pasta sauce, about $550 million business. We sold it. I worked on wishbone salad dressing. We sold it. And a number of other businesses as we reshaped the business. Some of them I actually helped get ready for sale over time, which was interesting and exciting. And then about 13 years into my career, I said, hey, I want to do something different. Put my hand up, went over to the personal care side of the business. So people may know that about 40 or so percent of Unilever's global revenues, which are about 60 billion euros, is in the personal care side of things. So hair care, skin care, face care, body care, things like that. And so I went from selling margarine, so worked on brands like Country Crock, and I can't believe it's not butter, to selling hope to young guys by working on the Axe brand in men's grooming. And so it was a big change. It was really a stretch for me to go from selling food and all the dynamics of selling consumer packaged good foods to move over to the personal care side of the business. And I really learned a lot in that process. Moved from the Axe brand into actually leading the entire deodorants business for Unilever in North America, which is a fairly large chunk of business, and also men's grooming in the men's grooming business. The men's grooming business actually remains one of the fastest growing businesses that we have. And worked on a couple of other projects like the acquisition of Dollar Shave Club a couple of years ago. And then a little over a year ago, I was asked to take a job back on the foods business. And that was really exciting. So after being about 7 years on personal care, I moved back into the food side of the business. And a lot of people ask me, how does it feel to be back in foods? Because that's where you started your career. So actually, I didn't go back to foods. I went forward to foods. Because the food business I had left 7 years earlier is not the one that I rejoined about 14 months ago. Not only have we reshaped the business considerably, much the way that we've done with our personal care business here and around the world, but also the industry completely changed. So let me just ask a question. How many people here are marketing majors? Okay, how many people here are other business majors? Okay, and how many people aren't business or marketing and you're just here because you want to do something else? Okay, put your hand up. Yeah, it's okay. All right, at least one hand out there. It's cool. All right, two hands. All right, good. We'll try to make this interesting for everybody. So I won't put too much into jargon if I do stop. Listen, it's the best way to describe the industry right now is a mess. And I don't mean that in a negative way, the way it sounds, but it is messy. So much of the stuff that I learned in the first 10 years of my career, I've quite frankly had to just leave in the shelf. Leave on the shelf. It's not that I haven't learned lessons in the first 10 years of my life. The pace of change now is so extreme. Just look at the last 12 months, right? Amazon basically has more market cap than most governments' GDPs on the planet, right? And so if you look at actually the top 5 companies in terms of market cap today are all tech companies. 5 years ago it was a mixture of petroleum and financial services companies were maybe a little bit of tech. Who would have thought that Amazon would buy Whole Foods? Whole Foods has 400 stores. Walmart has over 4,000 stores. The day that the day that Whole Foods was purchased by Amazon, the stock of Amazon increased such that it paid for the acquisition. So Bezos made money that day. He didn't spend money. And at the same time, Kroger, the #1 grocer in the United States, so outside of Walmart, which is a mass retailer, the #1 grocer is Kroger, their stock plummeted almost 30%. So incredible, all over the place. And I say that less to wow, I say it because it's a mess. It is a really mess. And the media market, so a lot of what I learned early in my career about about TV advertising and Sunday coupons and stuff like that. It's still helpful, but I mean, that's like yesterday marketing, to be honest with you. And the media markets have changed so dramatically. The advertising industry is under incredible stress. All of retailing is under incredible stress. And big brands, I mean, how many big brands can you point to that are literally going out of business? Big brands you never imagine not ever struggling or suffering, just goodbye, see you later. And the pace of change in the industry, I don't know if people can follow what happens with the CEOs of big CPGs, but I think we've had the most turnover in leadership in the consumer packaged good industry in the past 18 months than ever in the history of the business. So we've got something like 20 plus major senior executives either retire, get forced out, or just whatever. And then the average tenure of a chief marketing officer is like 3 years. So they really bob around CMOs. And I may pick on CMOs a little bit tonight, so I apologize if I offend anybody, because there's a lot of talk that's disconnected from the walk that I find frustrating in the industry. So that's a bit of how I got to where I am. I never thought I'd be doing anything for 20 years in one place, and if I step back and if I'm honest about it, I haven't been with the same company for 20 years. I've probably been with 5 different companies, even though it's had kind of the same name. It's really been probably 5 or 6 companies and incarnations. And the choices I've made moving around in the business have also helped it feel fresh to me, to kind of stay on the learning curve. I thrive on more steep learning curves and moving around the business and trying new things. The other thing I would say about the big change that I've seen is that, you know, when I started in business, the world was like a big triangle, right? And I was at the bottom of the triangle. And I was working on my little part of the business. And then when I got that little part done, I'd go down the hall and go to my boss's office, right? And then she and I would go, it sounds good, we'd change it. And then we'd go to our boss's office. We kind of work our way up. So everybody above me knew what I was doing. And we all kind of had to do that in order to sell up. And if you think about the shape of a triangle, everybody above you kind of knows everything down below. No matter where you are on the triangle, if you're up, you can actually see pretty much everything. And the world's actually changed from my perspective from a triangle to a gigantic rectangle. So things have gotten squashed. It's a giant rectangle where the people at the top have incredibly broad spans of control. We've had such a shakeout of leadership over the past, say, 5 to 10 years. People are responsible for wide spans of control. And if you think about the shape of a giant wide rectangle, at any point at the top of that rectangle, no matter where you are, you can only see so far. And so what's happened is that the more junior people in the organization actually are running the company. We may pretend that the senior people are running the company. In fact, the more junior people are running the company. Because I like to tell my team, the higher you go, the less you know. And that's it's a function of both speed of the industry and the need for speed of decision making. And in fact, sometimes making the wrong decision fast allows you then to figure out that you got it wrong and then make another decision, maybe get that wrong, and then maybe finally get your third one right, and you're still going to be ahead of a lot of big old slow companies. It's just that simple. And the other thing that's interesting is that a lot of people that are at the top of industry organizations are the ones that have been there a long time. And that comes with a double-edged sword. Because if you've been in a business for a long time, you've been in an organization or an industry for a long time, you know a lot. And you go, I know a lot, and I'm kind of a senior person. And that can be helpful, but that also can be a real albatross because you're so wedded to yesterday. And the things that made you successful as a leader yesterday, you can't, almost by human nature, it's hard to let go of that and say, yeah, that was great, but that may not help me today. And so there's a phrase that we use a lot around my team, what got me here won't get me there. And it's really difficult for a lot of senior people to kind of get their heads around, because it sounds nice, it's a nice slogan, but to actually say a lot of the stuff that got me to where I am today is literally not going to help my team, myself, my business, and my shareholders get to where we need to go going forward. And so one of the outputs of this is that never before, at least in the 20 plus years I've been in business, never before have junior people had more power than they do now. When I say junior people, I mean assistant brand manager, associate, or brand manager, doesn't matter. The need for junior people to actually step up and take control of the organization, even when senior folks don't ask you to, may be the single most important leadership skill that all junior people need to be practicing. a lot of people come into Unilever, and so I'm the executive sponsor of our North American training program. It's called Marketing Foundations at Unilever, and it's a sort of curriculum and all the basics of kind of how we do marketing and branding and business management at Unilever. And that's what I'm telling you is exactly the same thing that I tell the people that are coming in. And it's a little bit of a mind twist for people, because a lot of people are coming into an organization like Unilever, going there because they want to work in marketing and they want to learn branding and they just want to be a sponge and soak it all up. And that's great. That's important. And, not but, and you also have to lead from day one. Sometimes when your boss doesn't even ask you, I need you to do that. So if the biggest thing going on is an opportunity with Snapchat, and the person 3 levels above you doesn't even have Snapchat on their phone, we got a problem, right? We got a problem. And so I think it's the new management muscle that needs to be built, is that senior people no longer can just kind of create opportunities for junior people. They literally need to create that vacuum, step out of the way, and identify the people that can come forward. And junior people actually have to do things that I never had to do 20 years ago, which is actually step forward and say, these things, I'm junior, I don't know what I'm doing. But on this thing, I'm probably better than most people in the entire business. I want you to hand me the ball in that play. I want to take that and go forward. Does that all make sense? You may disagree with me? You have a different point of view? Yeah,
well,
please.
I mean, in this world of disruptive environments, businesses are being disrupted all the time, right? So why not the cultural organization business models be disrupted? CPGs have been around for a long time. Your company, my company, 100 years. We can't, the phrases you're using, what got me here won't get me there, is very, very true. And when you think about it, what markets are we trying to reach on the path to purchase for consumers? I'm a little bit older. My kids don't buy the way I bought when I was their age. Who knows that better? Well, Gen Z's, millennials, etc. So what you're saying is quite interesting. In terms of junior people having much more of a powerful voice within the business, and I'm seeing that every day.
Cool. Okay, I guess the second thing I click on to from an overall theme is what parts of marketing and business are broken. And how many people are familiar with the Unilever Sustainable Living Program, or heard that term, Unilever Sustainable Living Program? Okay, so sustainability is actually woven into how we do what we do at Unilever. And when we started getting on this maybe 8 or 9 years ago, my first reaction was, this is a bunch of greenwashing, whatever, it's feel-good, do-goody type of stuff. And I've really actually had a big change of thought about the role of sustainability and the role that businesses must take in the world. If we leave everything to governments, we're completely screwed, right? If we leave everything to public organizations, we're just not going to get where we need to go. Businesses have to play a much more active and frankly engaged role everywhere in the world to put their businesses in the service of people, not just through marketing and products and all the stuff that they do, but actually having not only a less negative impact on the world, but an actual positive impact on the world. And so there's a whole bunch of brands at Unilever that are along a continuum. Some of them are a little bit further along, like the brand Dove, and the brand for 20 years has been funding the Self-Esteem Fund, where basically it's a program that we invest in local communities around the world to actually help young women build self-esteem and to challenge the social issues that are facing young women. So I'm not going to preach about that per se, but I think at the end of the day, it's a brand like Dove has put its money where its mouth is, not just selling soap, but actually investing back in communities. We've got a bunch of other brands that still have a long way to go to catch on to that, to build on that. But some of the brands, all of our brands touch about 2.5 billion people a day. And so at the end of the day, if you don't take that as an opportunity to have a bigger impact in the world, I really think you should question the business that you're in. And the reason I say this is because I think I spent most of my early career, unfortunately, believing that making money and doing things that can help people were a zero-sum game. And the more money I could make, or the more profit we would make in a business environment was at the expense of actually doing something that had a positive impact. And that's just not true. So if you take a brand like Hellmann's Mayonnaise, we made a commitment to go cage-free with all of our eggs a decade ago. We had no idea how we would do that. When you've got a brand that's a multi-billion-dollar brand and you make a decision to do that, it's okay to not know how to do it, right? It's about making a statement that you believe that animal welfare is a good thing, and you want to find a way forward on that. And interestingly, once you put your vote in that direction, a lot of our suppliers that say, well, we can't even supply you that many cage-free eggs, or it's going to be super expensive, it's going to totally destroy your margins. But you keep working on it, you work through it, you can actually have an impact, and then other people will follow. And the same thing is true for packaging. Right? At the end of the day, we really need to take a hard look at our use of plastics everywhere in the world. This is not a new thing, right? You probably know a lot better than I do. But how do we get out of plastics, not just recyclable plastics, but literally change what we're doing from a packaging perspective? So the level of collaboration that we have to have with our suppliers, with our partners across the supply chain is something like that I was frankly unprepared for earlier in my career. Right? I was going to find the cheapest price, find the pack that works, and do all that kind of branding stuff. But now actually gearing your brand towards having a positive impact is actually part of the DNA of your brand. It's not just a nice to do. And we just launched a brand last week at Expo West called Growing Roots. Expo West is the largest annual convention of the natural foods industry. So it's about 4,000 new products and brands that get together in Anaheim, California. And so everybody's there from the industry, Whole Foods, and all the retailers, and all the big companies and small companies. And so we launched a brand called Growing Roots. And unlike our business, this was actually purpose first. So about a year and a half ago, we started urban farming program with New York City. So a collaboration with the mayor's office, the New York Housing Authority, and a nonprofit that's called Green City Works, and they're part of AmeriCorps. And basically, it's all about driving urban farming and creating real farms. We've grown over 30,000 pounds of vegetables. We send our chefs from our kitchens down to help people learn how to cook and eat healthy meals, and actually share a lot of cultural things. People share the cultural eating with each other. And so this was a purpose first, and so we said, why don't we create a brand out of it? So we actually created an organic snack brand called Growing Roots, and we just launched it last week. And ShopRite's our first retail partner. And so the reason I say that is not to brag. What I mean to say is that we're doing a bunch of stuff that we want to grow and to create profit and profit expansion for our shareholders. But at the same time, if you're not doing something that actually affects communities, it's no longer a do-good thing. And in today's fully transparent and rapidly moving to a no-click purchasing environment where stuff just comes to your house because you spoke to Alexa and you said, I need that, right? So we're going from one click to many clicks to one click to the no-click world. The transparency is such that if you're not actually hijacking some of the resources of your own company to do something different, you're missing a huge opportunity. So I saw a hand go up in the back.
Yeah, so you were mentioning that brands need to be aware of sustainability and all that, but in, I guess, a world where a lot of the high profit margin products, like let's say Gillette having Dollar Shave Club, which went directly to Ortho, so they managed to massively decrease the cost of it. If the profit margin, a lot of the other margin products start to go down as more people start to compete, how will they balance what shareholders need and what, I guess, sustainability is?
Yeah, okay, good question. So at the end of the day, you got all this topic, so let me see if I sum the question up and you can tell me if I get it right, so because I'll make sure that other people heard it. So basically, hyper competition, flattening of markets, people very quickly knocking off your products and finding cheaper alternatives, driving down gross margins. And if your margins are going down, how do you make that business sustainable? Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a great question. And if you notice, most big companies, they're doing usually one of two things. They're either growing or they're cutting costs. And if you're growing, you have tremendous opportunity to actually grow your way to higher margins. It doesn't mean all the things you do are going to be higher margin. There's plenty of new businesses that we've created or new segments we've gone into where the margins are lower than our core, the stuff that we've been doing for a long time that that we know how to really do well through our supply chain. But the reality is, if you don't go where the growth is, and your business starts to flatten, then all Wall Street's going to care about is, are you making more money? And so then what happens is that you have to start cutting even more costs, cheapening your product, and then it's the downward spiral. And so it's really critical that if you're not growing, you're in the business of irrelevancy. Right? So the most important thing is growth. And it's actually true for our sustainability agenda, which I'll come back to in a second. There are plenty of opportunities for big companies to cut costs. There is so much waste in most big organizations, it's shocking. Technology is also moving at such a pace that stuff that we used to have to spend many hours or weeks doing can actually collapse down. And frankly, some of the processes of things that we did yesterday, you can just stop doing them altogether. Just stop doing that and have those people do something else. So we have a whole program for cost savings across the business, and it's not just to cut costs, to cheapen the product so we can make more money. It's actually to generate our own fuel for growth, so that when we go into new segments, and they may have lower gross margins, particularly at first where the volumes are lower and you don't have the scale, that we can actually then continue to grow the margins of the business. Growing the margins of your business is not only for cost cutting, it's about using consumer insights to identify new ways to serve people, to serve each other as people and as consumers with cool new products, better ways of doing things, and then finding a way to get the margin out of that. So if you think about it, even though Walmart, does everybody know what Walmart's slogan is? Every low prices, save money, live better. Right? Save money, live better. And so at the end of the day, Walmart is very hard on prices. When I get on a plane and I fly down to Bentonville and I say, hey, we need to take a price increase, they fight me like hell because they don't want prices to go up. Unless we can show them a good reason for it. If the cost actually went up, if the commodities actually went up, if the quality, we improved the quality and we've shown that consumers are willing to pay more for a better thingy, well then we do raise prices. And all retailers do want prices to go up. Walmart just wants their prices to go up slower than everybody else's prices. This is also true for sustainability. I don't care how green your business is. You can have the greenest green business and win all kinds of awards for being green. If you're not growing, you're not helping anybody. And so at the end of the day, one of the challenges that we have at Unilever, I think a lot of our peer and competitive companies have, is that you want to create a more sustainable business. Have consumers choose your products in part because they're more sustainable and they're explicit about why they are not only better as a product, but they actually have a better impact in the world, either less environmental or more positive social impact. Then that is playing a bigger role in people's purchase intent now than ever, and that is just going to skyrocket. And so sustainability used to be a do-good type of thing. Now it is part of your brand DNA. So whether you know it or not, sustainability and having a positive impact in the world is part of your DNA. Ignore it at your peril. How many people here choose products every day because you feel it is better for the world? There's only one dude in the audience. There's only one person that picks products. All right, good. So there are a lot of people here that don't care about making the world better. I don't believe that at all. So let me pause there. Other questions? Because I see some people are chatting with each other. Any other thoughts or questions on what I'm saying? Yes, sir.
Your challenges are really no different than say, Campbell's or General Mills or Kellogg's, who, by the way, have initiated buyouts of smaller brands. You mentioned the Expo, which was mentioned quite extensively about how these companies take over smaller, sustainability brands who are looked upon favorably by the millennials. What is Unilever doing in that area in terms of takeovers? If you can say it, sure. That's a public information.
Yeah, so it's a great question. So the gentleman mentioned that there's a lot of big companies, be it ours or some of our peer companies, that are either starting business units where they're housing lots of startups and acquisitions, or they're buying them and they're putting them into the business. There's a couple of different models at it. So lots of people are buying up or starting new businesses from scratch. At Unilever, over the past 3 years, we've made more acquisitions than in the entire history of the company. We've actually made more than 30 acquisitions globally. We've also made a lot of divestitures, right? So net, we're up a few businesses. But if you look at, there's a great chart. I was in London a few months ago, and Paul Coleman's got this our CEO's got this great chart that shows kind of above the line all the businesses that we've added, and below the line all the businesses that we've sold. And so there's been a lot of reshaping of the portfolio. Some people in the audience know we're divesting our margarine business. We're the largest manufacturer of plant-based oils-based spreads in the world. Brands like Country Rock, like Infant Stop Butter, based out in Canada, Flora in the UK. We're selling that business to KKR. The deal hasn't closed yet, but we're selling it to KKR. It's a huge business. The revenues in several $billion. It's a beautiful business, but we've decided that business is better home with somebody else. They can actually create more value than within our system, so we're going to take that value in sale price. So a lot of the businesses that we've sold are beautiful businesses. We just believe that they're better set up under someone else's roof than ours. So we need to be really clear about that. The second thing I would say is that in the past year and a half, we've purchased brands like Talenti Gelato, 7th generation cleaning products, which is a 27-year-old business. It really is an innovator in the home cleaning care business. We purchased Sir Kensington's. It was actually the first thing I worked on 12 months ago, was buying a New York City boutique brand of condiments. We purchased Shea Moisture, really beautiful brand of personal care products. And these businesses, to be honest with you, we want them to run the way they were running. They're successful businesses. We bought them because they're successful, and we don't want to screw them up.
But your largest purchase was probably Dollar Shave Club, is it not? Yeah. But you're going head-to-head with the Procter product.
Yes. Yeah. So Dollar Shave, Dollar Shave Club brings a number of capabilities that we were shy on, let's say. So direct to consumer and all the data-enabled business is something that was a big interest to us. Men's grooming continues to grow strongly. We're already in the business of going head-to-head with Procter & Gamble. We have for decades, right? So the business that I used to run in deodorants, it was like us versus Old Spice and Axe and Dove and Brie, my brands versus their brands, and they're certainly a formidable competitor. In each of our categories, particularly personal care, we go head-to-head with P&G. I think the Dollar Shave business provides a number of differences from that model. Shaving is one of them, but the Dollar Shave brand has actually expanded into an entire master brand of men's products, from face care, hair styling, body wash, and a few other products.
So you're adding to the portfolio with new brands and new products, but at the same time, you're allowing these new business models to flourish within the umbrella of Unilever. What kinds of things are you learning from those acquisitions and business and applying them specifically to food?
Okay. This is a really great question. What are we learning from the acquisitions and what do we apply? That is a great question. So the first thing I'd say is that when a big company buys a small company and then fires everybody in the small company and puts their people in, it's usually a disaster. Traditional marketeers don't know why that business was successful. They come and say, I've been doing marketing for 20 years, let me come in here and show you how it's done. It's usually a train wreck. The best thing that we can do is to keep the founders for at least a few years. How many people have heard of the video series, The Founder's Mindset? And Ernst & Young does an online video series called The Founder's Mindset. Have you watched the video? Okay, it's pretty kick-ass, right? So if you haven't watched The Founder's Mindset, just go online. I think is it Ernst & Young? Yeah. If not, look it up now and then let me know if I've got that wrong. But it's basically Ernst & Young has done a whole bunch of studies about businesses that get bought, and which ones thrive and which ones kind of crash and burn. And there's this idea of the founder's mindset. And the lessons of the founder and the founder's mindset are probably the most important thing that we get from the businesses that we learn from the businesses that we acquire. We're a giant multinational corporation with a lot of great people. I like to think a lot of smart people that care about having a big impact in the world. At the end of the day, there's something very special about people who are founders, who are on the front line of their business, literally kind of between life and death of that business on an everyday basis, making choices to thrive and succeed, and putting everything they've got into that business. As businesses grow, they usually create more bureaucracies, more systems, more departments, all these things to systematize and streamline. What happens is there's an inverse relationship between the founder's mindset, that spirit of the person or people that he or she have brought to the business. There's an inverse relationship between that and the amount of bureaucracy that's designed to save costs, streamline the business, create scope and economies of scale. And so retaining this founder's mindset is more important than ever. And in fact, a lot of our big businesses that have lost their way, remember, all the businesses in Unilever weren't Unilever. They were all some small business at some of the points. So Hellmann's Mayonnaise, multi-billion-dollar business, was started by a German guy, Richard Hellmann's. He came to the United States, started a sandwich shop in Lower Manhattan, made sandwiches, also made this great mayonnaise and other sauces. People like that better, stopped making sandwiches, started selling a lot of mayonnaise. And I could just go on and on. So the Knorr business, Knorr soups, sauces, gravies, bouillons, Knorr is the second largest brand in Unilever. It's a multi-billion-dollar business around the world that basically provides cooking aids, bouillons, and things like that. Heinrich Knorr, 180 years ago, started the business and then grew it from there. So all of the Unilever businesses, with very few exceptions, have a founder somewhere in their history. And when we're getting lost on the business or a business is struggling, the number one place that we need to go is back to the roots of the brand. Why was this brand created? Why did it make a difference then? Can that still be relevant today? How can we resuscitate, breathe new life into the vision the original founder of the business had? You wouldn't believe the impact that can have on galvanizing people around what a business is intended to do, because every business usually has a founder at its heart. And so it's interesting, we watch CNBC, you watch programs about highlighting great businesses, which you really want to see, whether it's, or even Shark Tank. You want to see the founders. You want to see the people that have the courage and the idea to do something. So actually keeping that spirit of the founder's mindset, that the original intent and the passion to win and grow your business and have an impact is actually the most important thing that we get from those businesses. And to extinguish that right away and say, well, we know what we're doing because we're Unilever, that's like the kiss of death. There's another part of the answer to your question, sir, about when these businesses come in, what do you do? And first of all, not screwing them up is probably the most important thing we can do. But finding ways to actually then have them teach us stuff. Usually the mindset of big businesses, we're going to teach you, as you've heard me say a couple of times. But in fact, having the humility as a big business to say, what can we learn from you? And sometimes rotating people through. So there's a few people on our team at headquarters that are now working in Manhattan at Sir Kensington's to actually be part of their team. So that cross-pollinization is an important part of how we let the founders in their business teach us how to do business better. Please.
In fact, Ben & Jerry's is a perfect example of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Perfect example.
Yeah, Ben & Jerry's is probably one of our, it's a great example. A lot of people freaked out, right? I mean, Ben & Jerry's, when we bought Ben & Jerry's, I was going to read the case history of this a number of years back. A lot of people were like, Unilever's going to squeeze the life out of this brand. They're going to get rid of all that do-good stuff and environmental and organic and no growth hormones for cows and all the great stuff that the brand does. We didn't do any of that stuff. In fact, the Ben & Jerry's business, one of the conditions or the things that was set up at the beginning of the business was a social board. Right? So you think about the business board. But, those of you, how many people in the audience are familiar with B Corps? All right, so if you don't know anything about B Corps, I would suggest reading a little bit about B Corps. B Corps is an entirely different way to classify your business as purpose-centered. Right? As purpose-centered. Doesn't mean you can't make money. You can make money, but purpose is the center of the business. And so Ben & Jerry's has a business board, but it also has a social board. Right? And Ben & Jerry are not too far from the business in body and spirit. And there's a lot of people from the outside world, external points of view that are on the social board for Ben & Jerry's to actually help keep us in check. Right? To actually help keep us going in the right direction. And so we talk about subject, whether it's regenerative agriculture, we talk about water usage, we talk about humane treatment of animals. We don't know all the answers that we need. We need experts to come in from outside to actually educate us and to help us understand. Because there's a lot of BS claims out there. There's a lot of BS marketing about this thing is good for the planet or this thing's good for chickens or whatever it might be. So it's a never-ending process to actually make sure that you stay on top of it. Am I really having a positive impact? Or am I just saying I am? How do you prove that you're actually having a positive impact? There's another question over here. Yes, sir.
Very interesting decision-making process. Whether or not you decide to make a decision to launch a new brand. And also, I'm curious, when you launch a new brand, obviously you want to make the brand on the radar of Unilever. But sometimes we see some companies want to launch a brand which use unified image. For example, Costco, they use coordinated brand to almost a lot of different types of products. And for some companies, when they launch a brand, they want to separate with their existing brand. For example, like Toyota, when they launch, like Lexus, they want to intentionally separate with their existing brand. So what's the strategy you work with?
Yeah, okay, so if I hear you right, the question is, when you launch a new brand, how do you decide whether to keep it connected to the mothership or say, no, let's hide that? Is that your question?
Yes, and
right.
Also the decision-making process.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, first of all, not a lot of people know the Unilever name. We don't actually have any products that say Unilever. The closest is probably Lever soap, right? The Lever brothers. Unilever was founded, the two founding chunks of Unilever were the Lever brothers, who made soap, and United Margarine. Margarine Unie. It was a Dutch company that made margarine. Both of them used fats, plant fats. Both of those products are made using different forms of fat. They got together to have buying power in the marketplace. That's the history of the company. So Unilever is known as a soap brand in a number of pockets of the world, but we haven't done what some other companies have done in putting our name on a lot of stuff. So first of all, compared to some other big corporations, our brand is not as well known. And it's even less well known in the United States. So if you go to the UK, you go to Brazil, you go to lots of places, Southeast Asia, Unilever is India, very well known, very popular. In the United States, it's a little bit less. So first of all, we get a little bit of a benefit in that the Unilever name isn't on any products. But nonetheless, your question is, I think, still is an important one. By and large, I believe that you want to create a brand that stands for something on its 2 feet, independent of whoever owns it. Right? I want people to understand what I'm selling. I want people to understand what it is I offer. I want people to be interested and to actually have not only interest and desire, but passion for my brand because of what it does for them. The benefit that it provides to their life, not because of what company owns it. And so I think when you in the branding space, when you think about branding, while I think a lot of the way we do branding and the way branding has been constructed as a function is broken, the need for branding, I don't think will ever go away. Because I think at the heart of branding, it's about meaning. It's really a question of semiotics. And how humans create meaning for each other is actually, it's the stuff of language, it's the stuff of linguistics and semiotics. And so I think a brand just happens to be a commercial representation in some ways of linguistics. And so you want a brand to actually stand for something that makes people want to get it. They want to buy it, they want to bring it into their lives. And so if you're actually also leaning on the awareness of the connection of that brand to its parent, I think that's a bit of a crutch. Again, if there's some halo that can come from the parent brand, that could be great, right? So at the end of the day, a brand and a lot of car companies will create a product that they may only sell 30 of them a year, very high-end car, but they connect it so that actually the parent brand benefits from it. That's a lot of the reason why a lot of companies still are engaged with, say, Formula One or open wheel racing or even NASCAR, because they want the halo of being participating with auto racing to rub off on the parent brand, which is the reverse of what you're saying, right? So if you want to connect with the parent brand, do so deliberately. Understand what the value exchange is. What can my brand get from being explicit about who my parent is, or vice versa? Is there something that we want the parent to get from association with the brand? If the answer is, I don't know what it is, I can't figure out what that exchange of value is, I can't see what that halo is, I would avoid it at all costs. Is that clear? That's a really good question. Yes, sir.
Interestingly enough, on your advertising, is it true that the Unilever logo sometimes appears on almost every ad that you have, even though the name of the brand doesn't carry the parent company? The logo appears on every ad you Am I correct?
Yeah, the Unilever logo, now that little
It
flag that
unfurls
comes
the
down.
little banner.
Yeah, we started doing that 5 years ago or so. Part of that was to get a little bit more love to the Unilever brand. To be honest with you, was to actually have, it's the opposite of what this gentleman mentioned, which was saying, hey, we'd like more people to be aware that these products come from Unilever. But at the same time, you know, there's no jingle like Unilever, there's none of that type of stuff, because we're not trying to promote the corporate brand. We do want people to know that these products come from. We don't want to hide the fact that all these products are made by Unilever.
Sure. One last comment, if I may. This is not a marketing-related comment, it's corporate-related comment. It was announced when I came here that Unilever is moving out of London and going to consolidate the entire headquarters in Alumnus, in the Netherlands. Any perspective on that? Since, like you said, it's a combination of both the Lever brothers, which was British, and Margarine Business, which was Dutch. Now the entire company will be headquartered in the Netherlands.
Yeah, so great question. So the company has been an Anglo-Dutch company for forever, right? So one part in the Netherlands, one part in the UK. After Kraft Heinz tried to buy us last year, unsuccessfully, our senior leadership went into a period of strategic review. Right? So we basically said, hold on a second, wow, that was real. We weren't really expecting exactly that to happen. Kraft went away and said, what do we need to be doing differently? What are the programs that we have in place that we want to accelerate? How do we create more value for our brands, our business, and our shareholders? One of the things that came out of the strategic review was the sale of our margarine business. That's not private information. That probably one of the other things was consolidating and simplifying the business to have one headquarters. So that was something that was actually announced as part of the strategic review is, do we really want to have two headquarters or do we want to go to one? And also stock listing. So there's a lot of work happening. There's a number of ADRs and stuff like that, UN, UL, and whatnot. How do we simplify that to make it easier for the market to see the value that we're creating? So that's actually the spirit of it. What I will tell you is I don't know much about the details on what's happening. What I can tell you is that our foods and refreshments business. So Unilever has 4 big categories globally, product categories: personal care, home care, foods, and refreshments. And refreshments is a combination of tea-based beverages, things like Lipton and whatnot, and then our ice cream brands, Ben & Jerry's, Breyers, and whatnot, Waltz. And basically what we've done is we're actually bringing together foods and refreshments to go from 4 big categories to 3 big categories. And so we've already started that process. I was in Rotterdam a few weeks ago for one of our early meetings of bringing together the global leadership team for foods and refreshments. So listen, I'm not surprised. I don't really care where the headquarters of the company is at the end of the day. I think we need to take care of our people in our offices if we're making any changes to those offices. And there's a lot of people that were moving from London to Rotterdam already for the foods and refreshments move. But listen, if there's one thing I know after 20 years at Unilever is the pace of change is the only constant. And I love the statement, it's not mine, but I'm going to borrow with pride, that the pace of change will never be as slow as it is today. And that's true, right? That's what I've seen from the past. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What is the exact significance of combining foods and refreshments for the company itself?
Yeah, that's a good question. Why are you bringing together foods and refreshments? As a guy that spent most of his career in the foods business, I always saw that refreshments and foods are kind of the same thing anyways, right? Your personal care is about how you take care of yourself, your body, your family. Home care is about how you take care of your home. And foods and refreshments is stuff you eat, you consume, and you enjoy. It's part of human nutrition or human enjoyment. So for me, it's a natural coming together. We separated them out for a number of good reasons a few years ago to provide some more category focus. And now that I think we've reshaped the foods business and sold off a lot of brands, and actually recently acquired a few, I think it's a good time to bring those businesses together. But personally or professionally, I never saw them as different or separate. There is some benefit in terms of if you think about the retail partners, whether we're talking about Amazon, or we're talking about Kroger, or we're talking about Safeway or Walmart. A lot of the people that are buying those products are usually aggregated together in similar buying groups, right? So a lot of the stuff in the center of stores, the frozen section, food section, a lot of those buyers share a lot of insights. There's a lot of insights that can be spread or applied across consumables, the foods and refreshment products. Yes, sir.
Well, like,
You know, hold on, pause, and this gentleman had a question. That's okay.
Yeah, sorry, I can't stand, but obviously a lot of what Unilever does is based on its distribution, and with brick and mortar areas having a lot more difficulty with customers, I don't know if supermarkets are being affected as much, but are you adjusting now to different distribution methods because brick and mortar places are having more difficulty bringing in customers? Are you maybe focusing more on the web? Is the way your supply chain works changing?
Yeah, so the question is around distribution. So bricks and mortar, is it dying? What are you doing about it? That's what I heard the question.
Yes, sir.
Listen, when I talked earlier about it's a mess, I don't mean that in a negative way, but man, is it messy. So a lot of bricks and mortar organizations are, you just know, I just read about retail, lots of retail is under tremendous pressure. I don't know that we're going to need malls in the future. I'm not really sure. We do as humans love to shop, I can tell you that. And there's a lot more to shopping than just getting stuff delivered to the house. So I get a bunch of stuff from Amazon. I was an Amazon Prime member, but I love also going to the store and that experience of going to find things. So the short answer is our physical connection with shopping is not going to change. Or it's not going to go away. It is going to absolutely change, but it's not going to go away or die. I think we're going to see massive change in the retail space. So the short answer, yeah, it's changing a lot. Are we focusing more on e-commerce? Absolutely. Our e-commerce business is growing like crazy, like most businesses are in the space. And we've got all kinds of other models, including direct-to-consumer models like Dollar Shave that we're growing as quick as we can. I do think it's very interesting. I used to be a stock boy in the grocery store in my hometown in Massachusetts. And I will tell you that there are a number of stores that I go into across the United States that kind of look the same way they did when I was a kid. And so if it doesn't pass the 1984 test, you got to be a little you got to wonder, right? And I'm not saying it to pick on grocery stores. I love grocery stores. Grocery stores are most of my business. It's my job to partner with our retail partners to help them and to help them grow their business. So click and collect is a huge, huge area, right? So if you think back a year ago, a lot of retailers were completely freaking out. And then when Amazon bought Whole Foods, the freak out just went through the roof. And you get a lot of retailers now that are Albertsons Safeway bought the company Plated. It's a whole meal kit company. So there's all kinds of acquisitions, and you're just going to see a flurry of acquisitions of new businesses. I mean, people read that Walmart has now announced that they're going to be in the meal kit business, but they're not going to require subscriptions. There's a lot of people saying subscriptions are BS. You shouldn't have to force consumers to have a subscription. They should get what they want, when they want it, however they want it, whatever price point. So you're going to see all kinds of mixed up models now. I mean, CVS used to be a drugstore company, used to be a pharmacy. Now it's a healthcare company. They are in the healthcare business. I think you're going to see more and more retailers say, I know you thought I was a grocery store, but I'm actually a healthcare company. And I'm going to reorganize my business so that you can come and purchase products that are food, because food is part of the way I manage health. There's other grocery stores, I believe, that are going to say, I know you thought I was a grocery store, but I'm actually a restaurant. I'm a grocerant. You can come in. You can get cooking lessons. You can get it partially cooked. You can get it fully cooked. You can sit here and eat here. How many people are familiar with the company Alibaba?
Yeah.
Hema.
Yeah.
Right? If you just go online and watch some of the videos about the shopping experience at Hema, it's unbelievable. You can walk in, it recognizes who you are in the store, and the shopping experience is what's that?
It means, I'm telling you, it means growth.
Yeah, I think you're going to see massive disruption about retail models that blur. Is it e-commerce? Is it digitally enabled? Is it traditional? Is it experiential? I think it's going to be a very exciting time. There's a lot of people in the industry that are freaking out. Like, listen, I think this is the most exciting time in my career without any sort of exception. And to be in the foods business, to be more specific, this is without question the most exciting time in the foods industry in the 20 plus years I've been in it. Why? Because we are all more interested in our food. We are more engaged with our food now than ever. More people post pictures of their food on Pinterest than kittens, right? We are really into our food. We also care about nutrition and wellness in a completely different way. Earlier in my career, most of the food industry's connection with nutrition was about subtractive nutrition. Less fat, less calories, less sodium, blah, blah, blah. Now we're all looking to get more out of our food, right? How do I actually make food be part of my wellness vision for myself? So it's a super exciting time in the food business. It's a little scary for people who have been running a business a certain way for a long time, and if they're not flexible, they're not willing to change, if they're the higher you go, the less you know type of person, they're probably going to be in trouble, and they need to find ways to shift their business. So I don't know how we're doing on time.
Good. Well, okay.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
So, as I guess a large conglomerate, a lot of companies now are being forced to take a lot of social responsibility stands and solve different issues. It seems like Unilever has allowed some of its Ben & Jerry's subsidiaries to kind of do their own thing. But if the pressure from consumers or individual Unilever brands starts to increase, will Unilever prefer to have like a blanket statement about certain issues or let each brand talk?
Good question. The question is, when you've got a business that's within a business like Ben & Jerry's and they want to take a position. So when Ben & Jerry's wants to create an ice cream that's around Bernie Sanders, right? Yeah. There will be phone calls to the headquarters. I don't like this. I'm upset about this. I don't think this is right. When a company takes a position, when one of our businesses takes a position on something, we need to be ready to get some tough letters, tough emails. I've got emails sent to me that were sent to Paul Pullman. It came to me when I worked on the Axe brand. People find the Axe brand offensive. Why? This is a brand that I don't like. How do you have a Dove brand, which is talking about self-esteem, and a brand like Axe, which is showing things that I think are inappropriate? And so there's a reality here, and I don't think you should sugarcoat it, that if you want to be in a business that creates brands that have meaning for individuals, that actually have a point of view on something, you need to have a thick enough skin and a plan to say what happens if we offend somebody, right? Some people may be familiar with the things that Dove did this past fall. Unwittingly, we put out some advertising that was cut a certain way and really offended a lot of people from a racial perspective. That was unintended at all, but you have to be willing to say, whoa, hold on a second here, how are we going to handle that? And in fact, the way that you handle it says more to people, not just consumers, to people, about your leadership philosophy and your integrity as a business person than sometimes what you did, right? The way that you handle it and make things right. And there's just certain things that are completely off the table. So if it relates to safety, right? If it relates to human safety, or if it relates to things that could hurt people, there's a number of things that are simply in the no-go zone. Right? There's a whole lot of things that literally our legal team and our leadership team say, no, we're not going to go there. We're not going to take a position on that. That's not space. And sometimes brands want to go there. We have some conversations about that. Sometimes we may be looking at an acquisition. We have to really look hard at what's the founder all about? What are they doing? What's their background? Really understand the DNA of that business so that we don't make a misstep and acquire a business or partner up with somebody whose values are so fundamentally different than ours as a business that we don't think that's a good fit. But you need to have a big umbrella if you want to serve people around the world, right? If you're in a business like ours, lots of different people from many different walks of life, different parts of the world, that you need to find a way to serve them and hopefully make their life a little bit better, and at the same time be willing to tolerate different points of view. Diversity is one of the most important and undervalued things in organizations. I don't mean just business. And I don't mean diversity in just one way. I mean diversity in the broadest sense. Diversity isn't a destination, right? Creating a diverse workforce or even gender equality. I don't think these things ever have an end, because what makes us diverse as individuals, as humans, is going to continue to go into the future. What makes us diverse, how we identify as individuals, you could argue that diversity could be taken to the full extreme, that everybody on the planet is considered diverse from everybody else. So bringing diversity into your business and leveraging it as a source of strength to know the people that you serve better and to bring more points of view in is more important than ever. It's linked not only to be on the right side of social issues and do the right thing for people, but it's also very much directly related to the business. A business that is more diverse, it can better meet the needs more quickly of the people that they serve, spot new trends, develop new products and services, and meet those faster than a business that is undiverse, stiff, and connected to yesterday will make more money, it will grow faster, it will be more profitable. This has been proven up, down, left, and right. So there's not only a social reason for diversity, there's an absolute business imperative for diversity as well. I know that wasn't the question, but it's something I wanted to make sure I talked about, because it's, and we've got a long way to go in big businesses.
Matthew?
Yes, sir.
Quick question. What advice do you have to your current students now that you're kind of 20 years removed from the MBA program? Like, what parts of the program do you think gave you the most in terms of the learning that you got from the program? And the second part is that with all the disruption and stuff that you talked about tonight, how do we as an educational institution kind of match up to what the industry needs going forward?
Great questions. So I'll offer a couple of pieces of advice, take them with a grain of salt. I don't certainly profess to be all-knowing by any stretch of imagination. I'm still learning every day myself. The most important thing that I learned when I was at Hofstra, through both my coursework, the professors I work with, the peers, the people I work with, and a study abroad program that I was fortunate to be part of, was to actually believe in myself more. It may sound strange, but at the end of the day, Hofstra was not an Ivy League school. It is not an Ivy League school. A lot of people in business are part of Ivy League organizations or whatnot. And if you always compare yourself to somebody else that you think is better than you, you're really doing yourself a disservice. Not only are you going to feel not necessarily great, but at the end of the day, there's just no time for that. There's not a whole lot of good that comes from not feeling that you're great. I'm not saying be Pollyannish and don't face into the areas that you've got for opportunities, but be just as confident about the areas where you have to grow is where you know you've got strength. So I think believing in yourself may sound a little corny. It is absolutely important. And it's more important now because of the pace of change. So believing in yourself and being just as comfortable with the areas that you are a little bit insecure about, or I was insecure about, as the areas that I feel I'm really good at, the stuff I'm really good at, was actually really important because people see it. They see it on you. So when I go on interviews, when I meet with other business leaders, when I got the job, and I was early in my career on projects, people want to know whether you believe in yourself. They want to know whether or not, and I don't mean arrogance. There's a difference between being arrogant and being cocky and actually believing in yourself. So that's probably the most important thing. And I guarantee that for me, the more I believe in myself, lo and behold, the better my results were. I know it may sound really, really basic, but I would really encourage everybody to interrogate gently those parts of how you view yourself, your expertise, where you sit in the world as a candidate for a job, as an employee, as a member of a team, and identify the areas where you're super confident. And where you're not feeling confident, I would move towards those and understand them. Because it's important to have a level of intimacy with the areas that you are uncomfortable with. For me, I had to learn that, because the areas that I felt that I wasn't good at or I was weak at, or the things I wasn't strong at, I didn't really want people to see. Because I figured, well, that's going to hurt me from getting a job. That's going to prevent me from being seen as this, like, this guy's got an MBA, now he's ready to go. But in fact, my comfort with the areas where I was maybe junior, not super experienced, actually was a source of strength, as I found it. So the first thing is belief. The second thing that I would recommend is believing that you're going to have an impact on day one. Too many people come into organizations going through a period of, I'm going to learn a bit, I'm going to wait till I feel I'm ready to raise my hand in that meeting, I'm going to wait till I feel like I've kind of earned the okay. And I guarantee you one thing, if you wait until you feel you're ready, I'll put money on it that you probably waited too long. And the trick is that a lot of senior people won't ask you for your point of view, so you have to find an authentic way that's consistent with your leadership style and your way of approaching working with other people. You're going to have to seize control much more quickly than you think. Just put it out there. This is a lesson that I learned the hard way. Is I kind of wait till I get the thumbs up. I wait till, okay, Matthew, here you go in now, it's your chance. And I was kind of waiting, and I was watching other people get picked. And they weren't any smarter or better than I, but but somehow I was kind of waiting around, and when I actually found more courage to step forward and say, hey, listen, I know we're thinking the blue one's better than the green one, but I've got all this data that says that that's not the right one. The green one's the way to go, and here's why. And at first it feels a little uncomfortable because you're afraid that you're going to put your foot in your mouth or whatnot. Actually, the best thing that could happen is you fall down and you make a mistake. Because in fact, one of the things that I learned was I wanted the senior people to see me as like almost perfect. Oh, that Matthew McCarthy, he's great, he's fantastic, we're going to promote that guy, he's great. But in fact, a lot of the senior people saw right through all that stuff. And going back to the rectangle, the flatness of the organizations, and how broad the scopes of control that senior people have, and the higher you go, the less you know, senior people more than ever won't know what you're actually doing day to day. And trust is the most important commodity in any organization. And so if you don't trust yourself, people will see it, they'll smell it, they'll feel it. They'll either know it explicitly or they'll just say, there's something about that, Matthew, I don't know if I trust. So if you don't trust yourself, it's almost impossible for the people around you to trust you. And at the end of the day, what I found out was a lot of senior people have been through more failures than successes. That is a fact, right? The reality, right? Most new product launches fail, or you all know that, right? Most new ventures fail, they don't succeed. And so most senior people have gotten there with all kinds of scars and battle wounds. And so if they don't actually know that you're human, you show people that you are fallible, they actually won't believe that you're in touch with your strengths and your weaknesses. So there's an interesting way that you have to find a way to show people around you what you're made of, and then how you've been able to rebound from failure. I actually have been promoted and moved through the organization partly because I've been able to demonstrate that I know how to recover from failure. I know how to take a business or my own screw-ups, turn them around, learn from them, and create success for my team and my organization. That is a tremendous skill, and the faster you show it, the better, which is contrary to what I thought before coming to Hofstra, which is you kind of want to hide your mistakes. Those are probably two things I would say.
Would you share with the audience how you overcame the objection of your boss, Paul Bowman, when he challenged you on the strategy of X? After all, X is kind of risque, in many respects. Remember, when I saw the commercial, I even called you, and then we talked about it on the phone. Gee, how quirky and risque those commercials are. But I think they could learn from how you overcame those objections, and that the company went you over.
Okay, listen, it's so the Axe example, a couple things on Axe are actually they're not uncommon. And we have lots of arguments and debates internally about the right ways to do things. And sometimes I win and sometimes I lose. And sometimes I'm losing, that's not a bad thing. And sometimes I win, and that's a good thing. On Axe, I will tell you that in a nutshell, Axe was built as a brand to help guys feel more confident in pursuing people that they loved. And the Axe brand spent a lot of time promoting a way of feeling confident that I think overstayed its welcome. Right? So Axe got too much associated with bro culture and things that I think were seen as immature by guys. And so in fact the debate that we had on the Axe brand a few years back was we wanted to shift to a new direction that really got rid of all of that stuff. We didn't want to be associated with that kind of goofy sophomore guy humor that could be offensive to people, but move in the direction the brand's in now, which is around finding your magic. And so the brand really built itself on fragrance and saying that, hey, you need this fragrance. This fragrance is going to make you cool. And we wanted to go to a place that said, actually, it's not any of these products. It's actually already in you. You're already good the way that you are. You don't really even need these products. If you want to, we've got these products. And that actually created a huge ripple in the organization where a lot of people were arguing, but the old model has worked for us. And convincing people that the old way, while it's not working as well as it used to, it really needs to be abandoned. That's actually the most difficult thing that a brand I found it has to do is to convince people to move away. And I think this is the reason why lots of big brands suffer, is because they're stuck with yesterday of what has worked. And they may change agencies, right? Fire agencies bring new people on. So convincing people of why a new direction is necessary was important for the Axe brand. Let me be a little bit more specific to answer your question. Making the pain real is a great way to get leverage on your organization. So the pain that we're feeling today, like, oh, sales aren't really good on this business. But if we go that new direction and screw it up even more, things could even be worse. A lot of my job, my team's job, is painting a vision of the future. Usually one that there's a great outcome, there's a bad outcome. And making the pain of a potential future of inaction present is one of the most effective tools. Is actually building up business cases that show that if we don't take action, here's the potential downside in getting leverage on the organization. I use the term very explicitly, getting leverage on the organization. I choose to be part of Unilever. It is true that my boss chooses to keep me, but I choose to be part of Unilever, and I see myself almost as much I'm proud to be part of Unilever, and I'm almost as proud as an independent contractor. Because at the end of the day, I feel very fortunate to be part of Unilever, and I feel fortunate to actually leverage the resources of Unilever to do the stuff that I want to do. So if there's an additional piece of advice I'd kind of parlay this into, is when you get into an organization, whether it's a big one or it's a small one, I would recommend that you see the resources of that organization as at your disposal. You're not just part of that company like it's a club. I think it's our job as marketers, as brand people, as business people, to actually hijack the resources of our organization and put them into action for the stuff that we believe is right, not in the service of yesterday, or not in service of a strategy that may be outdated, if that makes sense. Okay.
So now that you mentioned when you graduated from the MBA program, you were trying to get into Unilever, and then the company you worked for got acquired Unilever. Well, I know that several of the students here would love to work for Unilever, and that now that you're where you are and what you've seen, what advice could you give to them in terms of how they could get noticed and get hired?
Sure. A couple of things I'd say. Unilever used to be in the business of recruiting from a certain set of schools, right? And that's actually going away for certain. So our Unilever Future Leaders program, the UFLP program, is what people can apply to. The online job posting program is actually very much transparent. And so we've actually moved away from recruiting at just certain schools to have a much more open recruiting. So that's actually a great thing, right? Because Hofstra wasn't one of those schools that Unilever was recruiting at. And those schools are becoming, it's not that they're less relevant, it's just that in order to get the diversity of talent that we want, we really want to create a much more open space and open platform. This is a fairly new thing for us, so we're still kind of learning how to do that. So the first thing I would say is that it's never been a better time to apply to Unilever, and I'm happy to talk to anybody who wants to about that. And I think this is also true of most companies. So while I'm selfish and I want to speak for Unilever, in honesty, I think lots of companies are having a hard look at the recruiting practices that brought all of their senior people in, who are now senior people who've been there for 15, 20, 25, 30 years. Is that really the right way for us to recruit? Is that really the right way? So I think it's actually a much better time now for you, and much more open environment now to find jobs across the broader marketing industry. The other thing I would say is that we've lost a lot of people at Unilever to small startups. We've had a lot of people leave Unilever, go try something else, and actually come back to Unilever. So a number of people that have actually done that. So there's more of a fluid approach now. We have a number of people that have left our business and gone to work for, say, Google, or Twitter, or Facebook. A lot of them are right in Manhattan, it's very, very close for it. And I actually, when this started happening, I saw those businesses as a talent enemy. Right? We're stealing our people. But in reality, is I'm coming much more to the sensibility, particularly some people who have come back, some people who have left our business to go work for a competitive company and realize that grass isn't necessarily greener. But this fluid approach of people moving around between businesses. I've been there for 20 plus years, but I really feel like I've been at a number of different companies. And if I were starting again now, I'd probably see the borders of my company as much more permeable and not expect to stay in a business a long time. In fact, to get the skills we need, we're much more looking at people who may go out and do something in a digital company or a direct-to-consumer company, or maybe a small business that's very, very purpose-oriented, or maybe even entirely. One of our HR directors, actually she just got promoted vice president, she's doing a stint right now at the World Economic Forum in Manhattan. She's doing HR with them, and she's going to come back from our business. So you're seeing much more of this kind of swapping and sharing. I think this is actually much more common in some other countries around the world than the U.S., which you kind of get into business and you go in and you go up as fast as possible. So I think it's more fluid than ever, and I'm happy to stick around for a bit and talk to you. I'm not going to rush that. Yes, sir. So for your pharmaceuticals, any thoughts that I have on pharmaceuticals direct advertising to people? Oh, that's a little bit of a third rail, right? Listen, I've got a personal point of view that it's somewhat uninformed, and I'll also be direct about that. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that drug companies are creating demand with consumers when that drug has like 15-minute donuts. Well, it scares the hell out of them, right? We make a joke about it, but we so much need so much of what the pharmacy, the pharmaceutical industry provides to actually improve quality of life. At the same time, I don't know that we're going in a great direction with healthcare in this country. And I say that honestly, that's not code for I think it stinks. What that means is I really don't know, because I want to believe that my doctor can help me figure out the right choices. I don't know that I'm going to want to be advertised to about a condition that I may not know a lot about, and all these side effects that I really don't know a lot about, and I'm going to march into my doctor's office and say, I want this, right? The same way I'd say, I want a jar of Hellman's mayonnaise. So I'm a little skittish around that space. You're a doctor, okay. So the people coming in saying, this is what I need. Yeah, I don't want to get all down on it, because I'm sure there's some kind of benefits to it. But you really have to. How many people are familiar with a guy by the name of Scott Galloway from an organization called L2? So if you don't know Scott Galloway, just go on YouTube, check out Scott Galloway L2, and watch any of his videos from the past 90 days. This guy basically he stood up there and said, we need to break up all these big tech companies. The big tech companies are evil. He literally said that. Watching this video, they're evil. They are monopolies. They are so huge. And again, I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I think I need a little more research on that. But it's an interesting point when companies get so big, and now municipalities are bidding for the next physical location for Amazon and giving them all kinds of tax abatements. I think we really need to look into to understanding the role of regulation. Because the heart of your question is one around regulation. And where are less rules better? Where are more rules better? And I think in this country, we definitely have a mindset, predominant mindset is we want government out of business, we don't want regulations, less regulations is better. I will tell you from my own cable bill that I don't know that less regulation is better, and I don't know if the quality of my cable is better because of that. Literally, it's an I don't know. That's not code for I think it stinks. It's I really don't know. So I'm not convinced that more regulation or deregulation has helped me as a person or a consumer. And frankly, I look at big organizations with a little bit of skepticism, including big companies, and I look at big public organizations like governments with a bit of skepticism. I think we should all have healthy skepticism about the role of regulation, whether it's more or less, versus seeing it as bipolar. Good on one side with very little, and bad with more. That's my personal thought. Yes, sir.
You mentioned about advertising, drug advertising to consumers. 3 years ago, the AMA came out against that. They would prefer if it were prohibited. Even though all the ads say, see your physician, okay, they prefer for warrant because it challenges the physician in terms of what he or she may recommend to the consumer. They don't want it.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know, the data has become the hot topic right now.
What has?
The data.
Data. Oh, yeah.
So in fact, I want to know something about your job and the connection between your job and the big data, and what kind of data is you concern most in your daily work, and is there any kind of data that you want to know but you can't find it? Something like this. Thank you.
That's a good question. So the question is data. It's I'm surprised it took this long in the conversation for big data to come up. Big data is driving so much of the conversation. Listen, first and foremost, I'm in the people business. Branding, I believe you're in the people business. You're in the understanding what people want and hopefully creating solutions for them. That requires information, data, that hopefully you can turn into some insights, string together. Right? The great person said once that insights are come from seeing the same data that everyone else sees, but seeing something that others don't. Right? That the human insights. And so I think that as marketers, we are by design ethnographers. We're in the business of understanding what makes humans tick, and it requires data to get there. Right? So when we talk about big data and digital, I see that as simply an extension, a huge extension, an exponential extension, but an extension of what we do as business people, as marketers, at its heart. It's not fundamentally different. We need insight, we need data to help create insights, to fuel insights, so that we can actually serve people better. That's the first thing I'd say. The second thing I'd say is that in a lot of ways, big data can create big screw-ups. Right? Big data can create a big mess. There's a bunch of people running around trying to gather all this data and figure things out. And you can never let your hunt for data, your thirst for acquiring and aggregating and sifting through data divert your attention from what business are you in, what value are you creating in the world, who do you serve, and does the data work towards that? And I think sometimes there's a risk of disconnection. We've got a lot of people gathering data, but I don't know that all the marketers know what to do with it. Right? So I think there's a big risk around the big data being a big mess, is that when you get so much of the focus on gathering and aggregating data, we aren't upskilling all of our marketers across the industry about how to access that data and what to do with it. And then the third thing I'd say to answer your question, which is there data that I want that I currently don't have? The answer is always. Always. And that doesn't mean I want more personal information about people, because actually a lot of the data that I'm looking for to drive the business is what I call forensics. I want to understand the last 5,000 people that we attracted to our brand, how did they really get there? We like to say, what was the advertising? It was that coupon, it was that promotion. It's actually a series of events. There's a golden path to a great brand lover, a brand that you've got to consume that loves your brand. And it's not just because of your ad. It's not just because of the product or the path or the promotion, but there's a series of things that happen along the way, usually a two-way street, not a one-way street. And I want to understand that path, that forensics, the forensics of brand love is what I call it. That's the business that I'm in. So I'm always hunting for more data, and to tether it back to that, to regress it, to use a regression kind of analogy, back to, did this actually help create that brand love? Did this help create intimacy for my brand in some way? Did this make them want to recommend it to a friend? Like, hey, we'll leave this new deodorant I tried. It's crazy if that sounds, we'd always trust each other more than we trust an ad. So if you can't find a way to tether the data back to the forensics of brand love, I would really not look at that data. That is the litmus test for the data. Right? And I'm saying it's easier said than done, but I think there's just a mania around data, and data is important, who controls the data and all that stuff, but the magic is art and science of branding. And data was very much focused on the science, but the art and human passion, human interest in brands is more on the love side. It's more on the art side of branding, and you need to have both of those. And I think sometimes it gets tilted too much to the science side. Great question.
One last question.
So
how about two? This guy asked before, so let him go. No, you go. There's one in the back.
Okay.
So today brands send their messages out, and it's no longer a one-way street. People are going to interact with whether it be social media, internet, and then send it back what they thought. If it goes good, it's going to be good. If it was bad, it's going to go viral. So it's easier to send a message, but has it become more difficult for you to formulate the right message so that it's more positive and interaction is a positive one?
All right, so the question is it more difficult in this more two-way street to formulate messages? Well, I think the short answer is yeah, right? So if you go back and say, listen, I'm just going to create a TV ad. I'm going to create a 30-second TV ad. Boom, there it is. We can test the crap out of it. And if it's not doing well, we can tweak it. We can dump it. We'll create another one. So in the world of kind of broadcast, one-way, mass media, those are the heydays. And I actually kind of started my career in the heydays. I think we're kind of on the way out, right? So I got like Mad Men. You got to think of Mad Men, like people watching 1 or 3 TV stations, and that's how they're consuming most of their stuff. So it has gotten much more complex, but frankly, I think it's gotten more fun, right? And people talk about content, right? Oh, I need content. I got to create some great content. I've created all kinds of content in my career. On the deodorants business, we were partnering with Steph Curry. That was really cool. We partnered with Jasmine on So You Think You Can Dance. We partnered with the NBA for a while. We partnered with the World Cup. We did all kinds of cool stuff. We shot all kinds of videos. A lot of it sucked. It wasn't really good. We loved it, but it didn't mean anything. It wasn't any better than this really cool ESPN result. And so I think that a lot of marketers spend too much time punching for great, cool content. When I think we need to spend a lot more time instigating dialogue. So to your question, a good marketer is in the dialogue business, not in the communicating business. A good marketer, a good business person is in the business. People like to joke, you heard this, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. There's a reason for that, right? So this idea of creating dialogue with people, not just your consumers, your own employees, people who work at your factories, right? Nutritionists, media folks, experts, scientists. You want to create dialogue. And in fact, how you create the dialogue and the relationships you create through the dialogue, I'm finding are more important than that great TV ad. There's still a role for like a really epic, awesome, or really funny piece of creative that you might see in the Super Bowl or whatever. But that's way less important. It's becoming less important every day. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm saying this dialogue, that needs to fit within a context of dialogue with the people that you serve or your broader stakeholders versus just, hey. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. In the back, last question. You gotta say it really loud.
My name is Natalie, and I'm a business analyst major. I understand because you were about data and technology innovation. I was people that you were in business, national, personal, super proud brand. But the corporate level, I think is really good. So far, I think it has so but from as a consumer, from the consumer's perspective, do you think Unilever's marketing strategy is very adaptive, or do you think it's very aggressive, it's very radical, different from other actions?
Okay, so a couple of questions in there. So let me grab onto the last part of that, which is, do I think that Unilever's approach to marketing and communication is nice and friendly, or is it super aggressive? Is that?
As someone who has been working with Unilever for 15 years, your perspective is probably different from the rest of us who are not working with Unilever at their exclusive products.
But what's the heart of your question? I want to make sure I understand what the question
She wants to come up from the...
Yeah, come on up a little closer so I can hear you.
I guess my question is that I think our perspective, my perspective, is probably different from yours. Because you're working for Unilever, you know from the corporate strategy level of how Unilever is marketing itself globally, winning and rebounding methods. But I think for me personally, I think if I read the news of Unilever, or I'm not really, I don't know anything about the acquisition or the recent activities of Unilever. I don't know whether it's considered to be a down-to-earth brand, or is it very aggressive or radical brand.
Okay. What I'd say is all of our brands have completely different personas, right? So at the end of the day, if I put in one room PG Tips, our tea brand, our tea brands, and if I put it in the room, Ben & Jerry's, and I put Axe, and I put Dove, and I put, let's say, a brand like Popsicle. They're all radically different brands. And so one of the tricks of working in Unilever is we do move around. Right? We do move across the brands. We have to learn the different persona of the brands and why it is that people have affinity for that brand, the people that we serve. So to a certain degree, to be successful as a marketer in Unilever or a big CPG brand environment, I think you need to have the capacity to and a passion for different types of consumers. So a lot of the people that are buying Hellmann's mayonnaise are people that are over 35 years old and they have large families. That's very different than the Axe brand. And one of the things that I found is that if you can't connect personally with the people that you serve on your brand, it's going to be really hard for you to do a great job. So when people are looking to move across brands, most people will move across most brands without an issue. But there are some brands, that, for example, when I was working on the men's grooming business, if people don't have an interest in understanding what young guys like, what young guys want to do, it may be really hard for you to develop the insights and the information about how to sell that brand and how to grow that business. Does that make sense? I'm going to stick around. If you want to talk more, I can stick around and talk to you about it as well.
Well, thank you very much, Matthew. I want to thank Matthew for a second time because he's here for the second address to the students. And first time I invited him when that was about 7-8 years ago when he was only a little marketing director. So I'm glad that now we get to share your wisdom when now you're a big vice president in charge of foods, and so I'm really glad. But I like to point out something that Matthew said at the beginning of his talk, which might have been overlooked. Okay, and that is now's the time for very junior entry-level people to shine, basically. And that's exactly what he did. All these years, I've known Matthew for over 20 years. And actually, before I started teaching, I was guest lecturing at Dr. Harold Asher's management class. Remember that? Yeah. And after the guest lecture, Matthew took the initiative to pursue me, and then we had ongoing conversations all through the years. And then kept in touch all these years because he took the initiative to really step out of his comfort zone, and that's something that everyone can learn. You know, and I hope, you will keep that in mind, especially when you are pursuing a new career after graduation. So step out of the comfort zone, and then also take the initiative. Again, thank you very much, Matthew. And